the manners fell from heaven. There were also persons who had seen the rock bring forth water in the midst of nothing. They've seen miracles. And when a little problem comes up, they quickly forget all the good things that God has done. They saw the Red Sea parted. They saw the Egyptians, swallowed in the Red Sea. But when it is time to ponder on the goodness of God or reminisce on the goodness of God, they allow the problem before them to forget all of these things because they become overwhelmed of this problem. Now, Joshua has led the people, and this time it was near his old age, and he felt the need to remind the people. And what was he reminding the people of? The mighty works of God. That is how humans are. When we have issues of life confronting us, we forget about the goodness of God. We forget about where God is taking us from and where God has placed us. A little shaking, we begin to complain. A little shaking, we begin to ask God, Baba, have you forgotten me? We begin to, put so many complaints that we put us in the position of one that seems to forgot the goodness of God. The Israelites, the Jews, were a victim of this menace. They saw all these mighty works of God, but they were not the ones or the group of persons who could understand that this same God who has done these mighty things is able to do and do and do again. And so they allow little temptations, little problems, little issues of life to sway them off the course of their belief. And when this unbelief is, overwhelmed in them, they begin to complain. And their complaint does not put them in the position of persons who understand God to the extent of one that has done so mighty things, so beautiful things. So therefore, when these little oppositions or temptation come, they forget. Now Joshua was reminding them. He gathered them together and he was reminding them because he understood the kind of people they are. Now let's go back to the manual. He gathered the people of Israel together. Follow me closely. Why did he gather them together? He reminded them once again. It means it was not the first time. It was not what? The first time. It means he has done this over time. Now that it was near his head, he felt the need to remind them again of the mighty works of God. When you know your people, when you know the people you are leading, the mindset and the way they react, you feel that, okay, there's a need to give them a continuous reminder. Why? Because you want them to stay in track. You want them not to lose their hope. You want them not to lose their belief. Because the devil is very trickish. You know, people will always focus on issues before them, forgetting that issue before them, something greater, something bigger befell them, and God was able to deliver them of it. But they forget easily. And when that issue is before them, they allow it to overwhelm them, and what do? They forget. Instead of them to take that problem to God as they are used to, they complain. They question the efficacy of their God. They question the efficacy of their leaders. They question the existence of God, the reliability of God, because they have forgotten that they have a God that has done something bigger. But thank God for Destiny Pavilion church persons. We are not like them, like this caliber of Jews who forget easily the goodness of God. Now, the Bible says Joshua gathered the Israelites and he reminded them once again and again of all the great and mighty things God had done for them. And not just them, he also did it for their fathers. You know, as soon as they left Egypt, that is when God began to do mighty, mighty things for them. Now, I want to see if we have some Bible students who can remind me of one of the, the good things that God did for the people of Israel as they left Egypt, that Joshua was reminding the Israelites of. Who can remember? Because there are many, but can somebody nominate one? He made them to cross the Red Sea. Let's have my hands together for Brother Roger. These are some of the mighty works of God in the life of Israelites. Yes? He gave them a new land. He gave them a land full of milk and honey. Yes? He brought water from the rock. Come on. Let's jam our hands together for Brother Roger. Is there there's another thing I want us to remind us or ourselves of. There's one thing. Let's jam our hands together for our beautiful sister there. He brought manna from heaven. At least anyone who has seen all these things that we have identified and still give reasons to complain about God's efficacy, it means they are strong-headed, they are stubborn. So Joshua was conscious and he felt the need. As he gathered them, he reminded them of the mighty works of God. Joshua rehearsed how God took, gave, sent, plagued, brought, put, destroyed, and delivered them in over 17 instances. You hear that? In over 17 instances, Joshua reminded them of how God gave, sent, plagued, brought, put, destroyed, delivered them. Now, if you read the book of Joshua 24, let's see there together. Because what we're going to do today is a form of introduction. And by next Sunday, we're going to go into detail. Joshua chapter 24, that is where our text, or one of our tests is going to will be taken from. Joshua 24, verse 3. And I took your father Abraham from the other side of the river, guiding him through all the land of Canaan. You see that? These are the works, the mighty works of God to the Israelite. Joshua is now reminding the Israelites. He said, I took your father Abraham from the other side of the river, guiding him through the land of Canaan. I made his offspring great in number, and I also gave him Isaac. And to Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. And to Esau I gave Mount Seir as his heritage. Who was reminding the Israelites of this statement? Joshua. And who did all of this work? To who this work was done? The Israelites. Thank you so much. And Joshua is reminding them that God gave them Isaac. He said, and to Isaac I also gave Jacob and Esau. To Esau I gave Mount Seir as his heritage. But to Jacob and his children went down to Egypt. And I sent Moses and Aaron, troubling Egypt by all the signs I did among them. And after that, I took you out. You see that? I took your fathers out of Egypt, and you came to the Red Sea, and the Egyptians came after your fathers to the Red Sea. All of us remember what happened. With their war carriages. This was what the Egyptians came with. And their horsemen. Now what happened to them? He said, at their cry, the Lord made it dark between you and the Egyptians, and made the sea go over them, covering them with its water. Your eyes have seen what I did in Egypt. Then for a long time you were living in the wasteland. Verse 8. And I took you into the land of the Amorites, and on the other side of Jordan, and they made war on you. And I gave them into your hands, and you took their land, and I sent destruction on them before you. Verse 9. Then Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, went up to war against Israel, and he sent for Balaam, the son of Beor, to put a curse on you. Now what happened? But I did not give ear to Balaam, and so he went on blessing you. It means instead of Balaam to curse you, he made the curse turn into blessing. I kept you safe from him. Then you went over Jordan, came to Jericho. Men of Jericho made war on you, the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Girgashites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, and I gave them up unto your hands. And I sent the hornets before you, driving out the two kings of the Amorites before you, not with your sword, nor with your bow. I gave you a land on which you had no work, and towns not of your building, and you are now living in them. And your food comes from vine gardens and olive gardens, not of your planting. You see that? This was Joshua addressing the Israelites of the mighty works of God for them. But in all of this, goodies, they were still struggling in holding on in their faith to God. By next Sunday, we're going to go into detail of what this subject matter is all about. Shall we bow our heads for prayer? And so, Father, this morning we thank you for your teachings. We thank you for your word. We ask that it will found root in us